Hello, welcome to Cable's Conquests. I'm your host, Archie Cable, and we're here to talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol.
The name's Cable. Remember it.
And we're back. We've made it to episode 2 of Cable's Conquests, and today we're talking about a local event, or local to me, here in London. It's Crisis at the Cafe. But first, let me introduce my guest for today, or should I say co-host. You know him, you love him. It's Curtis Hodgson. Curtis, welcome back. How you doing?
Hi, Archie. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, good. And today it's you that's going to the event, so I think I will let you explain a bit more about what the tournament is.
No, it's Crisis at the Cafe. Crisis at the Cafe 24. So there's been a lot of these. These are regular monthly events that we have in London at Badmoon Cafe, which has sort of become the home of MCP in London. Norbert, or Dr. Norbert, I imagine most people will be familiar with him. He runs these events every month, always really great, usually between sort of like 18 and 24 players. Some weeks there might be sort of like a little spin on them. This one, though, was called Train Wars. And this is quite nice because episode 1, you obviously went to Days and KO down in Brighton, and this was sort of a sister event with that. So while it was a separate tournament, 4 rounds, Swiss format, all the usual stuff, challenger event, essentially players went to both the Brighton event that you went to and this Crisis at the Cafe, then there would be a prize for sort of the overall highest placing player from the two. So that was pretty cool. There was lots of faces there who had gone down to Brighton and who were chasing that title. Sadly, I didn't, but I felt like you did. So at least Cable's Conquests were being represented at both events. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, let's get into your roster in the next segment.
You're boring me. If you want to help me nail them, get your team together and let's get started.
Okay, Curtis, your first time on, talking about your stuff on the podcast. What are you bringing?
So I'll see if you can work out the affiliation from the roster. So I've got Emma Frost, Iron Man, Juggernaut, Magneto, Mystique, Sabretooth, Apex Predator, Beast, Lizard, Toad, and Mr. Sinister. And my team tactics cards are my Hellfire Club. There's dead giveaway. Asteroid M, another dead giveaway. Do you know who I am? Helios Laser Bombardment, Magnetic Refraction, X-Ceptional Healing, Mission Objective, Forced Extraction, Deception, and Sacrifice. Those last two being my restricteds. And then my crises, my cures I've gone for are Superpowered Scoundrels, the Infinity Formula, and Riot Sparks. And then my extracts are Skrulls, Struggle for the Cube, and Spider Infected.
Excellent. So there's clearly a theme, but I guess you've gone dual affiliated with Emma Frost's My Hellfire Club and Magneto, I guess, or Mystique's Brotherhood. Do you want us to talk through your thinking? What affiliation do you prefer to play, and why have you gone for both?
So it is a My Hellfire Club roster, but essentially, so I've been trying to play My Hellfire Club a bit. I'm a big Mutants fan. I love playing X-Men, and I've sort of started to paint up the Brotherhood guys, but started with Emma, building it up. And I found I was increasingly adding more and more Brotherhood characters, and I was coming up in like sort of casual games against rosters who were just absolutely destroying me at attrition. If they won their secures, Gamma down the middle, I was getting wiped. So from advice from yourself and a few of our friends, they were like, get Magneto involved. Get Magneto involved. It gives you an option to pivot. So ultimately, what I want to be playing is Hellfire Club. I've got a lot of relatively cheap tanky characters, either healing or damage reduction, who can sit on points, be potatoes. But I do have that pivot into Magneto Brotherhood or Mystique Brotherhood, but that's not one I've really thought about very much.
Yeah, so Mystique, I guess, plays a similar-ish game style to Emma Frost, right?
Yeah, I think you probably only want to lean into Mystique if there was lots of extracts on the table, and then perhaps not secures, or if there was extracts and maybe some pay to flips. Because with Mystique's leadership, you can pick up the extract, get refunded, and then use that power to then flip the point on a pay to flip. Whereas with Emma Frost's My Hellfire Club, you get that extra power from contesting, but that happens often in turn 1, quite late in the game. So there's, pay to flips. It's not perfect. You can still contest and benefit from the leadership, but you can't do that sort of double tap. So that's probably the only time I'm thinking about that. Largely, it's my Hellfire Club, and if it's a narrow, secure, or there's not many points on the table, it's Magneto Brotherhood.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about then, if we're focusing on my Hellfire Club, tell me a little about what characters you're bringing as a kind of core to the affiliation.
Sure. So for those who are unaware, the My Hellfire Club leadership it's a tactics card, so it takes up 1 of my 5, but essentially it allows me at any point at the end of one of my characters' activations, I can activate the leadership. For every character who's either holding or contesting an objective, so whether it's an extract or secure, they will gain a power and heal a damage. That doesn't include Emma Frost though. And then any character who's not contesting or holding an objective, they take damage and lose a power. And then for every damage taken that way and power lost, Emma gains a power and heals a damage herself. So there are sort of 2 ways you can lean into this. You can think, right, I want to throw a bunch of characters out there and essentially keep Emma alive. Or I want to have lots of characters contesting, and then they just gain a ton of power and heal a bit of chip damage and keep themselves alive. Emma isn't that great, not that reliant. It's not like an all eggs in one basket kind of character. I really like it, and I'll get onto that in a minute. So really, I think for my Hellfire Club, you want to be leaning into that, going quite wide with lots of points on the board, so you can, and with lots of characters who are essentially. There's 2 things I want to do here. I want to have characters that survive. So we're talking about characters with damage reduction, characters with healing factor, characters with rerolls or counting blanks in their defense rolls. But also I want characters with relatively cheap displacement. And that means I can not only benefit from my leadership by having lots of characters who can survive on their points, I can then throw my opponents or push my opponents or advance my opponents off those points. If I'm quite wide, I'm able to sort of manipulate it, so I'm activating second or getting onto point second. Not only am I benefiting from my leadership and getting loads of power and healing damage, I'm also getting victory points and getting somewhere to winning the game by pushing them off of it. So that's the thinking behind these characters. So my core, Emma Frost, obviously Iron Man. He is tanky with his damage reduction. He's got his wild push on his builder, and often he's contesting one of those back points. He's gaining that power from the leadership, meaning he's quite reliably getting off his Friday AI as well. So that suddenly that wild and that push becomes a lot more likely. And then I would say the other one that's sort of core to me is Sabretooth, the Apex Predator. My favorite affiliation is Weapon X, and I really struggled with Sabretooth, the Apex Predator, in Weapon X. For a lot of people, for people who have played him, he needs lots of power to do, but he can do everything once he's got it. He can give himself extra dice to make his builder better, so he keeps that power. He can do more damage. He's got throws. He's got a pounce, so he can move across the board and potentially double tap. But often those superpowers are like 3 power, 4 power. Emma just switches that on, and then with the combination of his healing factor, his 7 health on his healthy side, and exceptional healing, he's incredibly tanky. You mix that in with superpowered Scoundrels, where he might be getting some cover, or is it Riot Sparks, where you heal when you interact with the secures. He can stay on the board for a long time, and because I don't have too many damage dealers, he can bring that. So I think they're sort of my core 3.
Yeah, so it's quite a nice balance. You have 2 long-range tanky-ish characters in Emma and Iron Man, and then Apex Predator can run up the board and beat on someone.
Yeah, run up the board, beat on someone, throw them off the point.
So what's that? That's an 11 threat core, and then that's quite a nice number,
Yeah.
right? Round number of a core, and then you can build in. You've got loads of tanky characters that you can bring in. Lizard, being a classic example of what you just described.
I feel a bit naughty for bringing Lizard. I think he's in pretty much every Hellfire Club roster because he's just so good at what he does, and it feeds into the affiliation really well. He's got a 3 power throw, which often with the leadership, round 2, that's online. He's got damage reduction and healing factor. He's got 4 physical health as well, so he can pick up that extract on the middle line and reliably survive. He can run over to the opponent's back point, throw them off of it, and reliably survive as well, and constantly be then benefiting as well from the leadership, but also scoring me points. Beast, I play in that role as well. I don't think I see Beast out of affiliation as much as you see someone like Lizard, but I really, really like him for a similar role. He's got that medium base, so he's really maneuverable, medium base, medium move, so he can get up to that middle line quite reliably. He can re-roll if he's got sufficient power. He can re-roll his defense. He's 4 physical defense, which is really great. More importantly, though, he's got that 2 power throw, which under this leadership, it's always available. And if he's rolling dice, he's rolling skulls, he's getting even more power, he's contesting, he's healing damage. So I find that he can be quite tanky in this roster as well, and I really like him in there.
Yeah, he's a little bit faster, a little bit more maneuverable,
Yeah.
and a little bit cheaper to do all his stuff than Lizard. But Lizard is significantly more tanky. I just want to pick up on one other thing. So, Iron Man's in your core.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you've got Helios Laser Bombardment in there. Tell me a bit about characters that are coming to do that. I hate this card. It gets me every time. So tell me a bit about that.
With Emma Frost giving everyone power, and if I've got my secures, I've either got 4 or 5 points on the table to be collecting power and healing damage from. My extracts as well, I've either got 4 or 5 there. So whether I've got priority or not, there should be lots of points on the table. So everyone's getting loads of power. What do you do with all that power? What do you do with all that power inside that trunk? You pump it into a Helios Laser Bombardment. And it's a really, really handy tool. It's a constant threat on the table. I've actually played games and I've won games and I've not used it, but it's that constant threat. Players are, my opponents are wondering, right, when is it going to be used? The classic is to try and use it on a character that's just been dazed. So you can just take them off the board, hopefully without an activation. If I'm removing an activation off the table, that's one less character they have scoring points. And usually that is what I use it for. So as soon as a character is dazed, they immediately become my Helios target, often regardless who they are. So I quite like if my opponent does that center point grab or even a side point grab, Mystique's in there as well, a combination of deception, bring them out so they can daze really early. And then often they either then need to, if they've got priority, because I'm often quite wide, they either need to then get that person out of there, or if they don't, they get Helios. And you can Helios with the leadership comes online quite soon if you're not, using lots of power on spenders, etc.
So I guess it's using that Helios as a bit of aggro, which you don't necessarily have a huge amount of in this list.
Exactly. When I'm going Emma, I've got more sort of tanky displacement characters, so it's nice to have something which can reliably daze or KO a character. It doesn't see the table often when I'm playing Magneto, because Iron Man doesn't often see the table when I'm playing Magneto. There's plenty other ways to spend your power when you have Magneto, but when I'm playing Emma, which is most of the time, yeah, you're right. There isn't a ton of attrition outside of Sabretooth, and even Juggernaut. I don't think is a reliable attrition piece because he's usually only attacking once in a turn. So yeah, it's nice to have Helios to do that.
Nice. So moving away from Emma, you touched on a little bit at the start. You have Magneto that comes in for attrition.
Yeah.
So I guess that's up the middle crisis, these E crises like Gamma and Demons, maybe intrusions.
Yeah, it's often when, say I've won priority and they can choose a threat. That's actually a really scary moment if they've got something like research stations, which is 15 threats. So it means that, yes, I've got my secures, which is fantastic, but they've got an extract and then they can choose a threat. And 15 threat, I can't go as wide with Emma. And if there's something like research station, then I have to, there's going to be fighting in the middle over those points. So that's, I think, when Magneto comes in, particularly at that 15 threat, I really like Magneto, Juggernaut, and a 4 threat. It's affiliated just by having those two, and often that 4 threat is Sabretooth as well. And, it doesn't mean I need to be destroying too much terrain early on because I've only got 3 characters to give that power, which often means that the tempo for destroying terrain and having power throughout the game is much easier to dictate. And between the 3 of them, they can do so much. Like Magneto's got his pulls, but also damages with his spender. Asteroid M often, between the 3 of them, they've got enough power to transport one of them so you can double tap. And then the throws. Juggernaut similarly pushing into people, hitting on people. Do you know who I am to throw people away so you can sort of choose who you're fighting? And then Apex Predator just doing everything.
And how do you find managing your example was you pull your secures, you pull research station, they go 15, and you have this 3 wide 15. How do you manage with only 3 characters your own secures?
Yeah, that is quite tough, and I think it's trying to use the displacement of the characters so they're not completely outscoring you on the secures, and it's probably leaning into their extract, because when you're going 3 characters, or even if you say you don't play Juggernaut, you go 4 wide and you say bring Toad and 3 threats, that is sort of a way you can lean into, say, Scoundrels and there's 5 points. Well, suddenly Toad actually might be quite useful as a 2 threat, even though he's not doing his extract shenanigans. But just sitting back, I've still got a fairly powerful core, what would it be, 13 threat, doing the fighting. And ultimately, I'm trying to take out characters so that we come to parity in terms of activations. As soon as we're at parity in activations, it really, hopefully, limits my opponent's ability to score.
Nice. And there's one more thing before we wrap up this segment I want to touch on.
Yeah.
You've gone for X-Men baddies.
Yep.
And there's one at the very bottom of the list that you don't see very much of. That's Mr. Sinister. Tell me about him.
I know. Poor you, off the mic. I've been biting your ear off about how much I want to use Mr. Sinister for a long time, and I never have really done it. I love the model. I've recently finished rewatching all the 90s cartoons, and of course he's one of the main baddies in that. I think he's cool. But not only do I think he looks cool, and I think his model's great, I think his card is pretty cool as well. You know, there's a lot of text on there. He does a lot. He's got a beam attack. He's got the extraction tokens where he can use those to do different things. So he can use those to either reduce damage from taking attacks. He can use them to get rid of conditions. He can also use them to put root on opponents, making their superpowers more expensive. He also has a 2-power place. So I'm wanting to fit him in. I'm trying to fit him in. I'm thinking, do I play Cabal just because he's affiliated? Do I try and splash him in other rosters that I've been enjoying playing, like Weapon X or the X-Men? But actually, I think Hellfire Club is his home, because I was talking about earlier, the criteria that I'm wanting in his roster. I want tanky characters with things like damage reduction. Well, if he's got his extraction tokens, he can damage reduce. He can also make sure he gets rid of things like incinerate, so he's not taking too much damage. He's also got, range 3 builder and range 4. It costs 1, but that's his beam attack. So he doesn't need to be super close, so he can hold those back points, still be affecting the game, and surviving through that damage reduction. And then by having that 2-power place, which is online so much more under Emma, because hopefully he's sitting on a point or holding an extract, and he's gaining not just his power from the power phase, but power from the leadership, means that he's reliably getting that place off. So he is just a nuisance that survives. So I felt like he played really, really nicely into this. And I've painted him up, and I really think he looks really cool. So I'm pleased.
Awesome. Well, sounds like you've put a lot of thought. I know we practiced quite a lot with this list. So I guess without further ado, let's head over to the tournament and see how you got on.
We're not retreating. It's victory or death.
Okay, so you've arrived at Bad Moon Cafe. Round 1 is up. What are you playing with, and who are you playing against?
So, round 1 comes up, and I'm playing Valerio, who is, part of our local scene. I don't think I'd ever actually played him before. I've chatted to him and stuff, game nights and things, but never actually played him. He's got a criminal syndicate, but I think he also could potentially have maybe a bit of a Spider Foes pivot.
Excellent.
Yeah, right up your street, isn't it? I can't remember exactly what's in his roster, but I know exactly what he put on the table. So we roll, and I think I win priority and go with my secures. I think I look at his extracts, and I think fairly happy. There's sufficient points on the table there, and I think actually he was probably would have been fairly happy with mine either way as well. So no, we're fairly content there, and we draw Superpower Scoundrels and Deadly Legacy Virus. So game 1, we're choosing, Valerio's choosing between 20 threat and 19 threat. So already it's going to be a big game. Superpower Scoundrels, we've got our 5 points that give us cover, and then Deadly Legacy Virus, 3 extracts across the middle. You collect them all, you pop off. I think Valerio chooses 20 threats, which is great because I want to put as many toys on the table as possible. So I bring Emma for 4, Iron Man, and Sabretooth. So my core that I was chatting about. I can't resist. I've got 20 threats to play with. So Mr. Sinister comes along. First time playing with him. And then I also bring Reliable Lizard and Toad. So that's my 20 threat. You know, it's a bunch of potatoes, isn't it? It's great.
6 wide as well. 6 wide as well, which is the dream for you, I guess.
Exactly, 6 wide. So hopefully I'm contesting as many points as possible. Unfortunately, because we're 20 threat, it's very easy for Valerio to go 6 wide as well, and that's exactly what he does. So he goes Kingpin leadership on criminals. He brings along Mysterio. He brings along Bullseye, Rhino, Taskmaster, and Omega Red. I'd never played against Omega Red before, but he's another X-Men baddie, so he's one that I've got my eye on.
That's excellent. I mean, classic Kingpin on Superpowered Scoundrels, but having Omega Red and Mr. Sinister on the table, that's pretty cool in game 1.
I think it is really cool. Yeah, there's I think he's like, I can see his brain ticking. He's got a lot of shenanigans he's thinking about. So the cards I bring, obviously my Hellfire Club. I bring Forced Extraction with Mr. Sinister, and that's the card that allows him to damage up to 3 characters, and for every character he damages, he gets one of his extraction tokens. I bring Helios Laser Bombardment, obviously, mission objective, and Exceptional Healing. So yeah, so that's what we bring.
Excellent. So, do you want to take us through the rounds?
So it's 6 wide a piece. So as you can imagine, round 1 is fairly cagey. There's 8 points potentially to be scored on the board. Valerio has priority, and he really surprises me with his first move. Instead of, I fully expect he's going to send someone right down the middle, pick up that center extract. Instead, though, I think he's got a plan. Instead, he moves Mysterio. Obviously, Mysterio moves short, and he sort of moves him onto the back point. This allows me to get head-on extracts by getting Toad to pick up one of the first extract, the first of the 3 extracts. The way I've positioned is sort of Sabretooth on that side with him. Emma Frost is bang down the middle, and then my other characters, Iron Man and Mr. Sinister, and who was my other one? And Lizard are all on the left. So Toad goes up, picks it up from range 2. I feel like it's nice and safe. The rest of the round sort of plays out fairly cagey. So I'm up on extracts. I've got 2 extracts, and I think I end up with 3 secures. And the reason I have 3 secures is Emma manages to use her builder with the bend will to move a character off the middle, and that allows one of my other characters to essentially come and take the center. So it goes in. I don't think I've got all the details correct there. But it goes in fairly cagey. But I'm 5-4 up round 1. Obviously, Valerio still has priority. Both 6 characters. He's managed to keep priority, and he's got a really tough choice to make. So Emma has managed to move character off the middle. I think it was Taskmaster in the end, which has, I think, brought another character into the middle, Rhino, to come take it. He actually activates with Kingpin first, and Kingpin is sort of a little bit in no man's land, having moved up the table, but he's got a bit of a beam on, and that's too juicy for him. He's got Toad and Sabretooth sitting in the beam. He activates him first so we can try and get the damage off on the 2. But this actually works in my favor. Sabretooth takes like no damage. I think Kingpin whiffs on his rolls. But Toad takes perfect amount of damage, like 1 or 2, allows him to slippery away.
Yeah.
So suddenly he's no longer in a decent range for Rhino to efficiently get his stampede, his attack, and then maybe a second attack to either finish Toad off or do it, or even then put a second attack into Sabretooth. He actually has to move first, then stampede and place. And this means that actually he can still, this is a robbery, but I think I must go with another character on the other side, because this is a robbery, but because he's had to stampede or something where previously he wouldn't have had to, he's not done enough power on his build, enough damage on his builder to gain enough power back to then do this as a robbery, leaving himself with 1. Yeah, Toad drops it, but the extract is left in no man's land, which later in that round it allows Sabretooth to come and just Actually, I think it allows Toad to come and in his activation just pick it up and move on. Down the left, though, Omega Red starts causing havoc, and this is a little bit concerning. I'd never played him before. He's a slow mover, so I'm thinking, I can't be that dangerous. But he's got a pull, so he can pull people into him. And he managed to set it up. Well, bear in mind, we're both 6 wide, so it's probably not that difficult to do. He managed to get Mr. Sinister, Iron Man, Emma Frost, and Lizard all in range to poison them all, which is great because I think later he's got a superpower which he can then damage anyone who's poisoned and then heal himself for that damage. But he doesn't really get himself onto any points doing that. He's sort of setting up the poison is really annoying. Obviously, I'm not then getting my power on those characters in the power phase, and turn 2 sort of goes much in the same way as turn 1 did, in that it's a little bit cagey. Those are sort of the main highlights. My tankiness really interrupts his attacks, and he can't really either daze characters to stop them scoring or knock them off points. Meanwhile, Mr. Sinister is Mr. Sinister and Lizard, between the two, are able to sort of pull and push Mysterio around, and he's not really able to be his most effective. So scores are exactly the same. I score 5, he scores 4 again, and we go into round 3, 10, 8 up. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. Another round of this, and I'm happy days. And what's becoming obvious as well is that my healing and my displacements are really starting to take their toll on Valerio, because every time I displace a character with a throw or a push or a place, he's, instead of being able to attack me to stop me scoring, he's having to move to get back onto the points to make sure he's still scoring, and then maybe do an attack which then maybe whiffs, and then I heal it back up. So I think I'm going into round 3 where everyone but Toad is pretty healthy. Yes, there's some conditions and stuff, but ultimately they're all fairly healthy. Anyway, round 3 starts. Omega Red manages to get that sweet activation off. He's set it up really nicely. He's got those 4 characters all poisoned up, but it's not as impactful. And this is where sort of the way my roster is built, I think, was really, really good. So obviously he wants to do, his superpower is where he does 2 damage to every character in range that's poisoned. Mr. Sinister manages to only take 1 damage because he spends an extraction token. Lizard reduces damage by 1 anyway. And Iron Man reduces damage by 1. So it's only Emma actually that's taking the 2 damage, which is a bit of a pain, because I think he was hoping, whereas I've been able to sort of heal some of his chip damage, that would set him up for hopefully a round 3 where he could daze a few characters, and it probably didn't have the impact that he was hoping. In the end, Omega Red does manage to daze Lizard, which, obviously, as you know, is no mean feat, but he's spending his activations to do that.
Do you exceptional?
I don't exceptional. No, I don't. And I think it's because I've been getting sort of a series of chip damage, and at this point, yes, I've got enough power, and he's within range of another character, so I can just mission objective. So I'm not scared about losing the extract at this point, and that's exactly what he does. I managed to mission objective from Lizard onto Mr. Sinister. So, it's gone from one tanky problem to another tanky problem, but Omega Red is finished. I'm thinking, great, Omega Red's finished. He's dazed the character. Priority is going to come to me, which hopefully might set up a really nice turn 4 to hopefully finish the game off, if we have another similar round. So I'm starting to now think about who I attack, and I'm playing a reactionary game where I'm trying to then finish off characters who have already activated, so they're not scoring points, but also it's not impacting. Now Lizard has been dazed, it's not impacting the priority. So I think Omega Red swiftly, I think he gets dazed quite quickly after that. Mysterio, then that allows, because Omega Red is the only one threatening my back point, it allows, and he then gets dazed, it allows then one of my characters, either Iron Man or Mr. Sinister, to then start thinking about pushing Mysterio's back point. And I think that's what Mr. Sinister does. I think he double moves and displaces and roots. So really annoying for Mysterio to have to root him to make things like tricks and traps more expensive, and anything else that he wants to do more expensive, but also to push him out of the way. He's only a short move himself. Yeah, unfortunately Mysterio doesn't really get going because he just keeps getting pushed from pillar to post. Mr. Sinister manages to go up and take that point. Poor Valerio, he doesn't get a single tricks and traps, or what's Taskmaster's version of it called,
Oh,
where
photographic reflexes.
photographic reflexes, not a single one does a single piece of damage. And as all Mysterio players will know, you do that damage, you can then move them. Also, you can move yourself, or you attack them, you can move them, and then that it sort of gets the ball rolling. And also, as soon as Mysterio starts rolling dice, he starts getting himself more power with his dice rolls. So that just was never able to happen because it just didn't come off, which was incredibly frustrating for Valerio.
Yeah, that's always tough with Mysterio. That you live and die by the dice.
You really do, and you often live and die by either his first builder. If that doesn't come off, then it doesn't get him rolling, because it doesn't get him rolling even more dice, or his first tricks and traps, because then that similarly doesn't get him rolling.
You live and die by 4 dice.
4 dice. Oh, I know. And I really did feel bad for him, especially when then Taskmaster similarly didn't come off. So that's what's going on the left. I'm taking both secures, and I've still got my extract, which I think is quite frustrating for Valerio, but I'm feeling fairly confident. On the right hand side, though, I've still got Toad and Sabretooth sort of holding their own against Kingpin. Bullseye's at the back, sort of holding his back point just to keep him scoring. Sort of keeps Bullseye out of the game quite nicely, because it's easy to then stay out of his range for attacks. So yeah, on the right, Toad, he's looking hurt. He's just picked up his extract that he'd previously dropped, so he tries to run away. Rhino, of course he does. Rhino catches him and dazes him. But actually, I'm really pleased that I did run away, because by running away, it means to deal with him, to get his extract, Rhino needs to run to chase him, and that hopefully puts Rhino out of position, so he's not scoring the secure. But Rhino does. He chases him down, he dazes him, and takes the extract. And rather than sort of like leaving Rhino there, I think Valerio had played, is it Shadow Organization, where you got to be within range 2 to attack?
Yeah.
Sabretooth doesn't care, does he? Always attacks at a range 2. So I think Sabretooth pounces towards him, doesn't do any damage, doesn't quite reach him, but it does get him within range 2. And I think I do a really naughty builder. Like, literally, it was like 5 dice doing 6 damage or something stupid. Yeah, it felt really, really bad. And Sabretooth manages to take out Rhino, take his extract. So yeah, Rhino's chased Toad and not gotten anything for it, which for me was great, and it also finished another character off. I think at this point as well, obviously running out of activations, we're also running out of time, and time is called. And at the end of this round, yeah, we time out. I get my 5 points, sort of the 5 points. I think this time actually I've got the 3, my 2 back ones, and the one that Mysterio was on, and I've still got 2 of the extracts, so I get my 5. But because of the characters I've been able to daze, Valerio's only getting his back point, and I think the center point, so he's only getting 2, and we time out at 15-12. So I go round 1, I get my win. I do feel sorry for Valerio. He was very unlucky with certain dice rolls not going off, but I think some of those sort of early plays sort of put him a little bit on the back foot, where he's chasing the game, which made it really difficult for him.
And I think your Hellfire Club did exactly what it wants to do, and is actually quite a good counter to Kingpin's criminals, who like to sit on points and counters double. And you're basically very difficult to kill and able to move them off it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And I was really pleased that it played out and worked. I was a bit nervous at first, because I was like, I'm sort of a secure team. I want to sit on my points, but I'm, how am I going to score points if they're counting for 2? But you're exactly right. I was able to sort of throw people off points and do exactly what I needed to just sort of keep up on the points and keep the score rolling. And the healing just meant that where we were sort of roughly at parity, the damage he was doing was not as effective as potentially maybe some of the damage I was doing. And slowly he ran out of activations in that 3rd turn.
And it sounded like a very pillow-fisted game.
Yeah.
Lots of just sitting on points and scoring points.
Very few models came off the table. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. I guess starting with a win is always good. So after a big first win, you're flying up the tables. What do you come across this time for round 2?
So, round 2, I'm up against David Miller. And David Miller, I don't think he's too local to London. I think he's a short journey away. But this is the 3rd time I've played him. It seems like every time I turn up to Crisis at the Cafe, I'm up against David Miller.
Excellent. So, what is David playing, and what do you take?
So, David is playing the new Steve Rogers Avengers affiliation, so out of the core box, which is really, really quite exciting. I'd not faced this before. I'd not played at this point. I'd not played like any of the new core set stuff. So I was quite keen to see how that played. So we roll for priority. I win priority this time, and as you'd expect, he is got quite attrition-y crises. So I go with my secures, knowing that I don't really want to be playing down the middle. But obviously, and winning priority, it does leave me sort of open to potentially being researched and getting that 15 threat. But like I said, I've got a plan for that. I've got Magneto. But we're very lucky, and I'm very lucky. Actually, spoiler alert: my MVP for this event is Superpowered Scoundrels. It really, really, really plays into my game plan. But we get Superpowered Scoundrels, and we get Montesi formula. So David has a choice between 18 and 20, and he chooses 20. So another big game. I'm thinking, what do I do at 20 threat? Do I go with the same as what I played before, or do I think more about what David can do? So I do. I go 5 wide. I go Emma, of course. I don't bring Iron Man, so Iron Man stays at home. You'll notice I didn't play Helios Laser Bombardment in the last game. There wasn't really a good opportunity for it, and so I leave him at home in this game. I bring Sabretooth, I bring Juggernaut, and I bring Beast, and I bring Mr. Sinister. So that's my team, and my cards are: Do you know who I am for Juggernaut? Forced Extraction, my Hellfire Club. I bring Sacrifice because I'm thinking he's playing attrition here. I might want to keep certain pieces alive, and I bring Exceptional Healing, of course, for Sabretooth. He then puts his team across to the side table. He brings Steve, obviously. What's his new name? The First Avenger?
Yeah, Captain America, First Avenger, I think.
That's the one. He brings Sam Wilson, Captain America, as well. He brings the original core set Iron Man, so the 3-threat Iron Man. He brings Black Widow. He brings Vision, so that's his affiliated 5, and then his remaining 4 threat is spent on Sabretooth Apex Predator as his I think his damage piece. So going into round 1, it's much of a muchness. We've lined up. We've got our 5 points. Obviously, Montesi down the middle. It's all fairly even. I think overall, I won't go into too many details, but overall, David gets a little bit ahead of it on attrition. And I think you can expect that, and I think I'm expecting that because of his leadership. And I think maybe I can take it because of my leadership. Emma takes my back extract. Black Widow takes his back extract, and I think she moves, and because she's got that long move, she can pick up that back Montesi and then move on to a back point. So great move. 2 VPs in the bag for most of the game. Mr. Sinister is on my back secure. Beast, I just moved to my back right secure. And Juggernaut, I send down the middle. Like I'm saying, he's my damage sponge. But we go in at 4-4 after round 1. I maintain priority. Round 2 though is when it gets a little bit spicy. Round 2 is I would say the big swing for me. Priority allows me to go first. Obviously, we've set up the board. I've got 2 of my big hitters in the middle, and it is quite good that I can go early as well because I've taken quite a bit of chip damage. It means I can get my leadership off early before he gets any attacks in. So I go with Juggernaut, and my Juggernaut, instead of staying on that central point, he goes over to where Black Widow is and his Sabretooth is. His Sabretooth has sort of stayed at the back. And it is the worst situation. It's a full health Sabretooth. I move to get my power. That also gives Juggernaut his extra dice in his attack. And I do I think it's now an 8 dice builder into Juggernaut. What's the worst amount of damage Sabretooth can take off an attack when Sabretooth himself has probably only got 1 or 2 power? It's 6 damage in it, leaving him on 1.
Oh no!
And that's exactly what I do. I think Sabretooth absolutely whiffs his defense. Juggernaut puffs off with one dice roll, and I get my 6 damage through, which is amazing. I don't have another attack, so you think, at least he's still standing, he can heal, and then suddenly Exceptional Healing's online, he's got a ton of power. No, Juggernaut gains 6 power from that as well. So what does he do? Just goes and bumps into him.
Yeah, nice. Can't brace that either.
Yeah, can't brace that. It's because it's me bumping into him. So yeah, Sabretooth goes down, which is I think is great because obviously he loves the leadership, a real big attrition piece. I have given him a ton of power, which is obviously a shame. But dazing him is great, and it also means that while he had 2 characters on that point, one of them's now dazed. I've now got Juggernaut on that back point contesting with Black Widow. So Black Widow, 'cause I'm constantly aware Black Widow's scoring 2, and she's only a 2 threat. Like, I need to deal with that eventually. So, but now I'm contesting it. Yes, I've not been able to put out any hurt on Black Widow, but to daze Sabretooth and contest that back point is great. Juggernaut manages to then heal some of the damage he'd taken with the leadership, which is great.
That's a huge opener to lose his big attrition piece.
Yeah.
And you're keeping priority at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a character down and I've activated first. Really, really pleased. And I think it sort of shakes David a little bit. And David, I think it's that situation. It happens to me so many times. 6 damage on Sabretooth, and you're like, I've got this tool to keep Sabretooth alive, and I can't use it. It's so frustrating. Black Widow herself, I think David is conscious. He doesn't want to, make it harder for him to get priority back. So starts trying to go into Juggernaut. Wants to sort of see what I do with my other pieces. So goes with Black Widow. She tries a hand at doing some chip damage into Juggernaut. It doesn't really come off, and even like staggering him isn't that great. He's got a ton of power from the attack, which means he can do nothing stops Juggernaut and shake that stagger. So nothing really happens there. The key to turn 2 though for me. So not only that, I think that is the first thing that goes my way. Everything else roughly stays the same, but Sabretooth is still on the middle.
Your Sabretooth, sorry.
My Sabretooth is still on the middle. And turn 2 is a bit of a tale of 2 Sabretooths because he goes with Cap, throws some shields into Sabretooth, and Sabretooth is he's rolling fire. You know those times when you rolling 4 dice and you roll like 2 crits and 2 wilds, and then you roll those 2 crits into maybe 2 shields or something silly, and it's incredibly frustrating. So he's even getting situations where he's not rolling a hit, so he can't even trigger the leadership as well to try and get extra bits of damage through. And when he does, there's enough defense there. So I think Vision and Cap just can't deal with Sabretooth, and he survives.
Your Sabretooth just knows he's the superior Sabretooth and needs to prove it.
Exactly. So yeah, in the tale of 2 Sabretooths, the Hellfire Club one manages to win out.
Tale of 2 Sabreteeth.
I think David tries to sort of contest that middle point, but my game plan works quite well in that Beast is able to move off his back point, throw, and then move back, which is exactly what I want Beast to be doing. Mr. Sinister is able to pull Sam Wilson, who's thrown some shields and charged and got onto the central point as well to try and contest it from Sabretooth. Mr. Sinister is able to move him off the point with his displays and also root him as well, which is great on Sam Wilson because he's got that 2 power airlift, which is great for moving his size 2 characters around. He's also got his charge, so making that, and his shield to give him extra defense dice, so making that more expensive is brilliant. I think I even managed to put 4 damage on him or something with my the Mystic Beam, so that's really good. And I go into the end of round 2 9-6 up.
Huge.
So David manages to he's got the extract on Black Widow and the back point, which I think his Iron Man is on, but that's it. And then I've got 5 points from having the 3 and then 2 extracts. So that's really great.
Yeah.
But in terms of good news for me, I think that's where it ends.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it really all seems to go wrong from there. And I reckon I'm feeling a bit cocky at this stage.
Yeah.
And that's really not what you want to be feeling. You want to see the game out, you want to stay level headed, and you want to keep in your game plan. But David is all juiced up on power at this point, and he's got lots of characters with lots of things they can do. Luckily, I've still got priority, so you think, agency is mine. And Juggernaut manages to daze Vision. I'm really nervous about Vision because he's got his beams, which Juggernaut is really weak to. Sabretooth is a bit weaker to. I said at the start, I think he's got loads of physical attacks. Well, he brings Iron Man and Vision, which are like his energy attacks, which I didn't really want to see. But Juggernaut manages to daze Vision before he can get patched up or even do any more damage. I think I managed to knock into him and throw him or something with "Do you know who I am?" And that also allows me to then put some more hurt into Sabretooth, who is now on his injured side, so he's only got 6 health left. And It's actually more annoying for me at this stage because I only managed to put 5 damage on him. And you think, oh, that's great because he's only on 1 left.
Mhm.
But when you leave a healing factor character on 1 health, suddenly, like, I think he chooses not to exceptional heal, which is, I think, quite lucky. Well, no, not quite lucky. It's quite smart knowing it's my last move. So dealing with Vision with great, leaving Sabretooth on 1 is not great. And Sabretooth now I think has max power. Obviously he got his 6 power or 7 power from the last turn, plus then a bunch of power now. So he's got 10 power, which he absolutely loves. And as a result, he causes havoc. I think he pounces out of that situation and goes into my back corner, where he manages to daze both Mr. Sinister and Emma.
Ooh.
So yeah, so suddenly I'm now down on activations, down on some agency, and he's also contesting that back point. Yes, he's injured, but I've got no characters there, so I can't.
Mhm.
I've got to deal with him as well. And I think Juggernaut has moved himself out of position to try and finish off Vision, and his route back to the point was blocked by Sabretooth. So he's also in no man's land. Another mistake I've made.
Mhm.
Iron Man, I get cocky as well. He just dazed 2 of my characters, and I pass. I think I've got my Sabretooth left and Beast, and he's or I might just have Beast at this point. Maybe I've gone with Sabretooth and I've just got Beast left, or maybe Sabretooth has been dazed at some point as well. And he just puts he moves Iron Man and does a single Friday AI'd Repulsor Blast into Beast. Beast only got 2 defense, hasn't he? And Iron Man manages to put 6 damage into him. And I think this is really unlucky because I can obviously reroll my defense and stuff. But the more and more I thought about it, it's actually quite likely, isn't it? Because I think maybe he'd put 1 or 2 damage on him before. So he only needs to do like 4 or 5.
Mhm.
He's got 6 damage. He's got 6 dice. He's also got the leadership to try and get something up. I've only got 2 defense dice. So my blocking that damage is pretty capped, and if I roll a skull, it makes it even worse. Crit's obviously great, but even I don't even have much potential to re-roll there. So he actually finishes Beast off. And what I was hoping to do with Beast is go last, so I could run onto a point and throw someone off before they could respond. Because if I went with Beast, then he could just respond with Iron Man. And instead, he went with Iron Man and finished Beast off, meaning I just didn't do anything with Beast, which was terrible. So this, I think, puts David back up. I think he then goes, so he was 3 points behind me, then goes maybe 1 point above me. I can't remember exactly what the score is, but as we go into round 4,
But he's dazed 3 characters of yours now. Is that right?
yeah,
In one go. That's brutal.
in one go, yes, either 3, I think 4 actually. I think Sabretooth goes down as well, and yeah, all but Juggernaut is dazed at the end of this round. So I'm only scoring 1 point, I think, for the extract that is on Juggernaut. So I go up to 10, and he must go from 6 to 11 by scoring 5. Having the other 2 extracts and at least 3, maybe even 4, maybe he goes 2 points ahead.
Mhm.
Can't remember. But I still have priority, which is great. But I don't really know what to do. I have 2 options. I either go with my injured Sabretooth and potentially try and take both his Sabretooth, who's injured, and his Sam Wilson, who's also injured, having been dazed earlier in the game by Mr. Sinister. I could take both those models off the table if I'm lucky. Worst case scenario, I take one of them off and throw another one of them away. But actually, because Sabretooth is on like 2 health at this point, because he's healed at 1, I could probably reliably take them both out. Or I go with Juggernaut, go into Black Widow, who is a healthy character with an extract. So she's currently potentially securing a point, and that allows me potentially with one of my injured characters to come and take that point. So I could go with Juggernaut. I get greedy. I decide to go with Sabretooth. And I think this is a good move. And I do exactly what I wanted to do. I went with Sabretooth. I take the two guys out. I finish off both Sabretooth
Huge.
and Sam Wilson, which takes 2 of his scoring characters off the board, and then Sabretooth goes on to that back point. And I think, great turn. Not a great turn at all, because he then Helios lasers into Juggernaut. And me taking off 2 injured characters rather than dealing with a healthy character meant that I would have less agency later to contest the secures.
Yeah.
And because he's already got characters up on me, he's still got agency at the end of the game to sort of finish that off. And I'm naively thinking he'd never go for Juggernaut because he's on his healthy side, and he's still got like 7 or 8 health
Yeah.
at this point because of damage reduction and healing from the leadership. He's still looking pretty good. And with his damage reduction as well, he needs to, maybe he's got 1 or 2 damage on him, so he needs to put, you know, a fair bit of damage through on him. He doesn't have a ton of power because I've just taken 2 characters off the table who had power, but he does it anyway, and he has enough, and he dazes him to essentially stop him going in this last turn. So Black Widow just then has free range of the board as like the only healthy character. And yeah, that's exactly what happens. 20 plus dice go into him. They do the 7 damage that was needed. Juggernaut then can't activate. Injured Sabretooth is then sat on my back point. That allows Black Widow to come and move on to that point, which gives him a swing because she's also holding an extract. She then takes the secure that I'm scoring away from me and scores it herself because she's healthy. Vision can then run onto the point that sort of Juggernaut was threatening. He's injured, so if I dealt with Black Widow and then been Helios, that would have been contested still. Well, no, he would have still taken it because he'd have at least still been alive. But yeah, he can run onto that back point, and that allows his Steve to run onto the back right point. And Iron Man, I think, is also on that back right point. The only thing I can do, Beast on his injured side can run up and throw one of them away, but he can't throw both. I try and push one of them with my spender, but I don't get the trigger off or something. I think I need the wild, but 6 dice, it's not guaranteed. So yeah, I get my 3 points for the extracts. 1 extract that I'm holding, I think I'm holding the center point with Emma. She comes up and takes that, and I might still have my back point with. Oh no, maybe I managed to displace them both off. So I get my 3 points, and I go to, I think, 13. But because he's got my back point, his back point, the other 2 extracts, that takes him to. He scores more points in that round than me. He was already a point up. Time is called, and I think it ends something like 15-13 or 14-12. One of those 2. I think I might have got 1 or 2 details wrong there. But yes, it's nuts. It's turn 2 was a huge swing in my favor, and with all that power, all that ability to catch up, turn 3 he was able to just finish me off, and the extra activation he had at the end allowed him just to score out. So yeah, David took the win in that one. Another 20-threat game, another Superpower Scoundrels, another absolute. I really enjoyed this one with David, but yeah, he managed to edge me on it.
Very close game. Sounds like a really good game, really swingy. I guess it's kind of showing the difference between your list and his, where he lives and dies by kind of dice and getting that attrition and getting that damage through, so that like round 2 your game plan worked, round 3 his game plan worked, and then classic Helios laser coming in clutch.
It really did. I think about it taking characters off the table. So you want to do it when they're dazed, when they're injured. But actually, in those late rounds, to just get rid of an activation and get rid of a scorer is equally as important. So to have that threat is nuts. I wonder if I maybe made a mistake in round 0 by not going 6 wide. I wonder if maybe, yeah, Juggernaut was super useful, and actually I really liked him in this game. Sabretooth was really useful, really liked him in this game, but maybe I should have dropped, Juggernaut so I could go 6 wide and be contesting with those activations.
Yeah.
That might give him as well fewer targets to do his attrition-ish stuff on.
Yeah, I guess you weren't predicting him going 6 wide, and I think that's probably the difference.
I think so, yeah. And I wasn't predicting to have so many energy attacks. I should have
Yeah.
thought, I should have seen 2 energy characters in there. I should have expected them to be on the table.
Anyway, pretty tight match, and you're 1 for 1. Moving on to round 3. So round 3, you've had your lunch break. You're 1 for 1. What's up next?
Yeah, I'm all fueled up, and I go into round 3 against Matt Cole. Matt is another regular to these events, another one that comes to sort of the games night. I played him a couple of times. I think we're about evens, but never at a tournament. Oh, maybe once before, but yeah. So yeah, and he's running Shield. So I've played Shield a couple of times with Hellfire Club, but only Nick Fury's Shield. And Matt is playing Iron Man Shield. So we're off priority. I win priority and go with my secures because that's the done thing, isn't it? When you don't know, you go with your own secures. But his extracts I think were quite similar to mine, so I was fairly confident going in. And what do we get? We got super powered Scoundrels again.
We go again.
Third time in a row. Yeah, which I didn't mind, but maybe I should have some practice on the others. But I didn't mind. It's a good crisis for my team. And then the extract was Skrulls infiltrate world leadership. So Matt, he's lost priority, but at least he gets to choose the threat value. So he got to choose between 20 threat or 20 threat, and he made the difficult decision of going 20 threat. So this is my third game on Skrulls, my third game at 20 threat. So all the toys. You would have thought by now I'd know what my 20 threat looked like. So I've gone with, well, I've learned hopefully from my previous two games. I need to go 6 wide. There's so many points on the table in this game. There's 9, I think, 4 from the Skrulls, 5 from the Secures. So I want to go nice and wide. I want the 6 there to try and get as many as possible. So my call comes back. Emma, Iron Man, Sabretooth, they're there. I then put Lizard back in. He was, did the job for me in round 1. I put Beast in. Didn't quite do the job for me in round 2, but I love him, and I thought, he might be quite good on the Skrulls. But also with this in mind, I went with Mystique because similarly, she can, with her long move, get in range. So it gave me a couple of options there, and also with her long move, she could then potentially go off onto a different one as well. So I wanted to give myself lots of choice there. So that's what I've gone with. And my cards are my Hellfire Club, of course, Exceptional Healing, and Helios Laser Bombardment. I think they're like stock 3 with that core. And then I've gone with Deception because that's the best thing about Mystique, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you said her long move was why you brought her, but we all know it was for deception.
Yeah, it's a long move's handy, but Deception's even handier. And it's always quite nice that it's an early play to bring someone closer to you. Or in my case, I just want to get people off points. So I think there's quite a lot of versatility for Deception for me. And then my last card, I wasn't really sure what I wanted. So given that there's 4 extracts on the table, I thought, and I've got 6 characters, I thought Mission Objective would be a good one. And Matt has lined up on the other side of the table, and he's gone with Invincible Iron Man. So the second new core set character I've had to face, which is quite exciting. He's gone with the Howling Commandos. He's gone with Taskmaster, OG Bucky, so the nerfed in inverted quotation.
Yeah, nerfed.
Yeah. Agent Venom.
Ooh, nice.
And Valkyrie. So Valkyrie, of course, he's got a few Asgard affiliated characters. So he's also gone 6 wide.
What's deployment like, and what are the rounds like?
So I think we set up fairly cautiously. I can't sort of quite remember what the sort of major differences were in how we'd placed. I think similarly to my previous games, I've gone quite cagey. Even though I've got priority, I'm still thinking about getting on points that he's already got characters on, so I can hopefully try and displace them and score it, but still also benefit from my leadership. So I don't want to rush for the middle straight away because I'm a bit nervous. He's got lots of long range attacks. So say if I got really cocky and I threw Lizard right up or Beast to take his Skrull that's closest to him, then I'm just inviting them to shoot them down and get that early days. So I think I go quite early, and I think I go with Lizard, and I take the extract on the left. And fortunately, Lizard loves this. There's like the taco truck from the Deadpool set that's like right in. So I'm on the correct side of it. The Skrull is my side of it. It's within range 1 though. So Lizard double moves to the side, picks it up. Great for him. Not only he got damage reduction, he's now got cover. So it makes him super reliable. And lots of those guns are physical, thankfully. But even if they're not, like suddenly he's becoming quite tanky in that position.
And he's not getting pushed by the Skrull. Is it the Skrull that pushes you?
Yes, the Skrull pushes me, and I think I'm quite lucky. I roll my crit on my wild, and because that's the nervousness. You have to double move, so you don't get that second move to readjust. You put yourself behind cover, and then if you get pushed out, then you're screwed, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You've exposed yourself, and I think he gets quite lucky. And Beast goes up the other side, so he's down the right. So my 2 extra grabbers have gone down the flanks, and Beast has managed to pick up the Skrull on the. No, Lizard's gone down the right. He's gone down the left. Yeah, correct. And again, I'm very lucky. No moves. Matt activates Howling Commandos, and they're similar to what I was talking about that central skull. They're on a medium base, so they right down the middle. They move and they can get within range of it straight away. They do get pushed by it, so I think I push them closer to me, which I'm thinking is great because they've still got another move. So actually, what previously was a fairly safe grab is no longer as safe.
Mhm.
And importantly for me, because of the short push, the medium move back doesn't get them, even though it gets them to relative safety, it doesn't get them within range 2 of another character. So that's my signal to go with Mystique. She takes my central Skrull, so she long moves up. That puts her within range 4 of the Howling Commandos, and she deceptions them forward. And I think at this point I've still got Iron Man, Emma, and Sabretooth all to activate. So the hope is, yeah, I can get the early days there, maybe even pick up his Skrull as well. And at that point, I'd have all 3 Skrulls. And in fact, I think because I'm keen to get still get my back secure with Iron Man, I don't quite get an attack on with him. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous about pushing him away accidentally because it's not a May push with his shot. So I think I managed to single attack with Emma and single attack with Sabretooth, which I thought I might be able to get more out of it, and I didn't quite manage to daze them. I think I might have put them on 1 health left. So frustratingly, I'm not able to pick up that Skrull.
But they're in a bad position with 1 health left, so it's not the end of the world. It's not a bad deception play.
Yeah, exactly. And if I remember rightly as well, maybe not dazing them might have been okay. Oh no, because no one would have had any power on them at this stage. I think at the time I thought, oh well, at least I'm not got you backed by Bucky, but I don't think it was even on the cards because of didn't have enough power. But yeah, I go in. I've got 2 of the Skrulls.
3 of the Skrulls, no?
3 of the Skrulls. Yeah, you're right. I've got the two on the flanks, and he's got 1. So I've got 3 Skrulls. Which is great because that's like a 2 VP swing on something which normally is shared evenly in a game. But I've only got 2 of the Scoundrels. I've got my 2 back Scoundrels. I think the Howling Commandos are sat on that middle point because I've tried to attack them. I've not contested it, but that's fine. I go in. I take 5 points there to Matt's 4. So and fairly happy with that, especially with the damage I've put out on the Howling Commandos. Round 2 starts. And we're both 6 wide, so I've retained priority because I've not dazed anyone out of activation, which isn't really ideal for Matt because you've got Howling Commandos who are struggling, and I've got my 2 characters with the wide extract. Suddenly now they can either move to get out of the way or maybe put some hurt and displace some characters. So I've got quite a lot of choice. I end up going with Beast, and his Valkyrie has gone on to his back. In fact, I think Valkyrie managed to charge with her 2 power, attack Beast. I don't think she did very much, but then failing that, move back onto the point, and she was fine. But I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take the fight to Valkyrie, and Beast puts a serious amount of damage on Valkyrie. I feel really bad. I don't feel bad because I love Beast, and he's absolutely done me a solid here.
He always does work. I don't know why he's so underrated.
I absolutely love him. He's my favourite model to put on the tabletop. And I think this clearly isn't the case because it's not how maths works. But when I play with him and I roll 5 dice on his builder, I regularly will get like 4 successes. And then when I roll 5 dice on Cable's builder, for instance, I'm regularly blanking out and I'm not getting anything. And it's the same amount of dice. And one of them's a 3 threat, one of them's a 5 threat. And yeah, for whatever reason, Beast always manages to pop off. But that's great for me because it's giving him loads of power. So he can now throw. And I also got my trigger off, which was great because it allowed me then to place onto the point that she's contesting, throw her off. I know she can move back, but I can throw her off, which forces her then to try and move back onto the point, spend some of that power on that charge maybe, and even do the double attack, which is great. Valkyrie then immediately retaliates. Maybe not the best decision. I think there was a few options where he could have either gone after another one of my characters or even got the Howling Commandos into safety. But Valkyrie retaliates. She's got a ton of power, and Beast absolutely does the business for me again. Like I think, what's the Valkyrie combo that you can do where you can like?
Oh, you can make your hit become you can add like an extra dice for every wild you roll or something like that, or
yeah. Like she's got some superpower, something about the dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when she's got her on her spender, she's got a flurry. So if she's absolutely stacked with power, she can do her spender, which then allows her to have dice manipulation. She's got the affiliation reroll, and then if she gets a flurry into the attack, so she could potentially get 3 attacks off. I think Matt is reasonable to expect that Beast should be dazing if he can get those 3 attacks off with the rerolls, with the dice manipulation. But it's a bit gross, and because he does do a lot of damage or something, he does like 7 damage, and Beast blocks 5 of it. It's just silly, and I think it's the rerolls from Beast because he's given himself a load of power. I think I roll a couple of crits, but then roll those crits into defense. But then re-roll then whatever I have left into more defenses. So it just stacks, and it's a bit gross. And then her second attack, which doesn't have all that dice manipulation because he's really pumped it into that first, that just completely whiffs itself, and it's a simple like 1 or 2 block. So yeah, bit of an exchange there that Beast has definitely come out on top. That now allows me to go with Sabretooth, who's right on the Howling Commander's heels. He dispatches the Howling Commandos. They didn't really stand a chance, and I think then he spends a lot the rest of the time trying to like put attacks with Ancient Venom and Bucky into Lizard, and Lizard does Lizard things under this leadership where he just, with the cover as well and the damage reduction and then the healing I did later in the round, he just absolutely tanks it, and the round ends without really much else of note, but Shield's action economy in trying to take out my characters, me pushing them off points, them having to move back onto it, similar to like what happened in that first game. It really feels like the Hellfire Club plan going in its way. Even though I think Lizard does eventually daze, I think I see out the round with a similar type of like points difference to what I had before, and I think we go into round 3, 10, 8 up.
Yeah, it's the classic Lizard thing where he normally dies, but it normally takes a obnoxious number of attacks to get him. It's just chipping away.
I just remember, Bucky was getting all his rapid fires, but he was getting rapid fires without doing any damage.
Right, yeah.
Because Lizard was either like blocking it or reducing it, or maybe he'd do 1 damage at a time, and it's just not enough. And then I remember Agent Venom having to go in, and he really struggled to put him down. I think eventually did it, but it took a lot of activations. So I'm actually, even though the scores are still pretty close, because I've actually been able to put out some serious hurt by dazing the Howling Commandos, getting Valkyrie down, and sort of just surviving, I'm in a pretty good position going into round 3, and I think I've still retained priority because I didn't manage to daze Valkyrie. Oh no, unless Lizard dazed before he even went.
Yeah.
Which probably gave me priority back.
Yeah, because I guess was the choice not to go for the Howling Commandos so that you could try and keep hold of priority.
Yeah, I think so.
You didn't go for them first.
I think that's why I went with Beast first, because it was either Beast or Lizard I would go with first to try to almost give the Howling Commandos an activation so I could finish them off much easier. I was worried that the Howling Commandos would just run away given that they're holding an extract, but I sort of got away with it and ended up dazing them before they activated, but got a bit lucky with Lizard taking up so many other characters' activations, but still going down. So yeah, we go into round 3, and I've got a few decisions, and well, it's actually, some of the decisions are quite relatively straightforward for me. There's like lots of opportunities for me to take the point scoring away from Matt. The first thing I do is go with Beast, and he finishes off Valkyrie.
Nice.
I think it probably takes like an attack and a throw, but ultimately she goes down and is no longer contesting that point. And I think that pulls maybe Taskmaster over to try and maybe to deal with Beast later in the round, which is great because it pulls him out of the center, which allows me to bring more characters into the middle. Lizard, in his activation, moves on to the back point, so he stops sort of hiding behind that terrain. Now he's eventually dazed. He's not as critical as me because he doesn't have the critical for me. He doesn't have the extract. So he goes up. He pushes Bucky on that back point, and I think he manages to tail whips him, throws him into a terrain, and that finishes Bucky off.
Oh, nice.
Which is really great. But I think what then really hammered the point home was I managed to Helios the Howling Commandos.
Nice. So you did what you said you were going to do. You were going to take the guys off the board.
Yeah, and it does, and it really, because I do think it matters who it is. You want to take out the big guys because you don't, because you do a lot of overkill often. But really, you just want to take someone who could potentially score a point off the table. So,
especially in this list.
Yeah, exactly.
Where that's the whole thing.
Exactly, and everyone had a ton of power from mixture of the leadership taking damage as well as sort of their builders going off. So I was able to I think I more than overkilled into the Howling Commandos, and really that was sort of the end of it with Valkyrie, Bucky dazed, and the Howling Commandos gone. It was only really Taskmaster and Agent Venom left to try and score points. But because I'd been able to push with the 2 extract carriers onto the back points, I think I had all 4 of the secures. Sorry, the 4 side secures. Matt still had the center secure, but then I had 2 extracts. Agent Venom, as a one-man team, did as best as he could, but ultimately couldn't really change much of the game. And I think then I get 6 points, and Matt ends with 2 points. So it finishes 16-10 in the end. So
oof, nice. A big win. What happened to his invincible Iron Man? Because it sounds like he did very little in that game.
He did do very little because with the F map on the secures, Iron Man pretty much stayed in the middle for a lot of the
Yeah.
game, trying to make sure he was affecting the game with his
Mhm,
rerolls.
mhm.
He ultimately became a bit of a battery for Agent Venom, really, who was the only one who was properly benefiting from those rerolls. But I think, yeah, he was never able to have too much agency. And once he was on the middle and other characters had to go off and do other things, so Agent Venom started trying to attack some of my characters in the bottom right, and then Taskmaster went up to try and deal with Beast. He couldn't, if he tried to sort of attack characters and take away my point scoring, he's only giving up a point on his own because he
Yeah.
wasn't holding an extract. He was just sat on that middle point. So I was keeping the fight around the edges, trying to keep it away from him. So that was pretty handy. Yeah, he didn't do a lot. And credit to Matt. I feel sorry for him in the sense that I'll never blame dice because I do think there's more to the game than that. But it's sad, isn't it, when you've got a pair of power and you re-roll your blank into a blank, or you re-roll the in defense your hit into a blank or whatever, it just into a skull. And it just happens so much for him.
Yeah, that leadership is great in theory, but it's that paying the power for potentially no benefit is always tricky.
It really is. And if you go down early game, you need to have a plan to get that back because it's one of those leaderships because it costs power. It's not doing much in turn one. And
Yeah.
actually, if you've spent power on picking up extracts and stuff and you've not done attacks, which there's 4 extracts on the table, I felt like that the Invincible Iron Man leadership, probably maybe this is how Wakanda feels as well with Black Panther. They didn't really have the power to do those
Yeah.
rerolls
Yeah.
until later in the game when they'd
Yeah.
been damaged and perhaps the game had already sort of slipped away from them.
Yeah, and it sounds like Hellfire Club did Hellfire Club things, stand on points. I guess getting that advantage on extracts, 3 extracts plus an almost dead Howling Commandos that are holding the extract was exactly what you wanted early doors. Is that because it's those extracts which are the important things. Then you can later on kind of get more on the secures.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be bringing with Hellfire Club. I feel like you want to be bringing the extracts to the secures. So I think you deal with those first, and then you fight over the secures.
Yeah, very good. And Beast was a beast as usual. So 16-10 win to cap off round 3. One more round to go. So on to round 4 then, and our final round of the day. You're 2-1. You're looking for that positive win-loss ratio, and who do you see across the table?
So I come up against a guy called Joe. I think on Longshanks he's Joe Manji.
Yes, X-Men player.
Yeah, X-Men player.
Spoiler.
And
Sorry.
sorry. Well, today he was playing X-Force. With the recent buff.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I think chatting to him, he loves X-Men similarly to me, and he was really pleased with the recent buffs that they got. So he's been dead keen to put them on the table. And I'm feeling pretty good going into this round. I'm not a top table player. I'm trying to do well, don't get me wrong, and I've really thought about my roster for this event. And I'm on 2 wins with a potential to hit 3 wins, which the best I've ever done is 3 wins. So I'm really keen. But I don't want to spoil the game too much. When I finished this tournament, I think I messaged you, didn't I? And I said I had 3 really good games and then 1 game where I brain farted my way to an early bath. And as you can see, it must be this game. And it really was. I got it all wrong. So I won't dwell on it too much. I like to apologise to Joe for not giving him the game that he deserved in the final round of a tournament. Pretty much handed it to him.
You're tired. You played 3 games.
I know. And I was really buzzing to do well. And I thought I was being clever as well. Anyway, I made a couple of mistakes. And so the first mistake I'll talk to you about is I played Magneto Brotherhood.
So what were the crises that were pulled?
You're going to realise this was a mistake when you hear these. Riot Sparks over Extremis and Alien Ship crashes downtown.
So it was your secure, which has been designed for Hellfire.
Yes. So Joe's 1 priority, but he's gone with my secures because there's the least difference. There's more difference in our extracts than there is in my secures. So yeah, he's gone with my secures. That should be a signal to me. Play Brotherhood. That's what your list has been designed to do. But when I said Superpower Scoundrels was my MVP, it was also my crutch. And having played it 3 times and,
At 20.
yeah, suddenly I was like, oh no, I'm doing really well with 5 secures. What am I going to do with 4? And I got in my head that, he's going to shoot me to bits. He's going to have range, but still be on there. So I need to be fightier, but I need to be more brawly, which I don't think that's true on this secure. And the extract is 3, so there's still 7 points on the table. That's plenty of points for Hellfire Club to be getting their points from, but I didn't. And a D map where they're super far away from each other. And what do I bring? I bring Magneto with his famous short move. I bring Mystique.
Okay, that's good.
And Sabretooth. So, because I'm still thinking, I want some people who are fairly mobile. Yeah, and I'm thinking about Deception as well. So I'm thinking about, right, if he goes for that middle alien ship thing, then Deception him out, and I've got Magneto and Sabretooth to do the business. But Joe's played MCP before, and he obviously didn't do that straight away.
Sorry, who were your other characters? I only count 13 threat at that stage.
Sorry, yeah, and then it wasn't Sabretooth, it was Toad. So I've gone Magneto, Mystique, Toad as my affiliated characters, and then I've brought Beast and Lizard.
Right, okay, so you're still going 5 wide at 17 with Brotherhood.
So this is why I thought, I'm 5 wide at 17. Also, I look at the table, and it's got a ton of terrain onto it. So, at the time I'm thinking, God, now is the time to play Brotherhood. I'm going to smash at the table, going to gain loads of power, and I'm going to do loads of things with that power. But yeah, that was my first mistake. My second mistake, so this truly is a brain fart. I didn't realize Magneto's builder was an Omni push. For whatever reason, I thought it was a push away.
Because most of them are.
Most of them are. And this was so dumb because I've played against Magneto and he's pushed me in to then get the rerolls in his second attack. Loads. And I know it. And I know to try and, you're not even safe at range 3 because he'll just pull you in or, anchor yourself in terrain. I know to do these things. But yeah, so throughout this game, I would attack people and push them out of range for my second attack.
Okay.
So there's the second brain fart.
So Magneto was doing 1 attack a turn, basically.
Yeah, or I'd trying to think in my head, I'd be like, I'm being clever to myself, pushing them into terrain so they don't go out of range, meaning I'm just getting 2 attacks that push rather than 1 that pushes and 1 that rerolls.
Joe must have been across the table like, what is this guy doing?
Literally. At the end of the game, he was like, sorry, I didn't realise you didn't know that's what it did. And I was like, you had every right to think that I knew what it did because I did know what I should have known what it did.
And it's your character.
Exactly, it's my character. Anyway, so they're my brain farts.
Can you just quickly run through us what Joe had?
He's brought Cable, Deadpool, Logan the Wolverine, X-23. So Cable, Deadpool, and X-23 are his affiliated characters, and then he's got Logan the Wolverine and Bullseye.
Of course, Logan the Wolverine is not
affiliated.
Not X-Force affiliated. So he's chosen. So last week I took OG Wolverine. He's got Logan.
It's interesting that he still prefers the Logan in this, and I wonder if it's just doubling down on those rerolls when he's out on the flank by himself.
Yeah, I think he's probably more reliable.
Yeah, fewer spikes, but more. Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. The game sort of goes as expected. His Bullseye comes up and takes like a side extract. My Toad comes up and takes the middle extract, hoping to be safe. And I'm also thinking if he puts a bit of damage on me, it's a bit of power, Asteroid M, then Magneto into the middle. Why does Magneto want to be in the middle when we're on a D map? I don't know. But that was my thinking. Again, just more and more mistakes. My Beast goes up and takes the right objective. This is my one bit of bad luck. I think I was a bit hurt here. His Logan, obviously, he moves and then does his attack where he places range 3, and he does all 6 damage to Beast and dazes him straight away.
Oof.
So not only does he get onto the secure from the place of the attack, he dazes Beast and picks up his extract. So I've gone from potentially being 1 up there, and I know he's got his affiliation, the X-Force reroll. Logan's got no one around him, so he's got his 2 of the rerolls, and he's got his Pierce. But I've got rerolls of. No, I don't have rerolls, do I? Because I've not got any power at that stage.
So it's probably unlikely to do 6, but it's not kind of crazy unlikely.
No, he needs a crit firstly, doesn't he? Because he's only rolling 5 times.
Yeah, true, actually.
So he needs some crits. And I think he rolls like 2 crits, but then with the rerolls, everything becomes a success.
Yeah. And the X-Force leadership.
Yes, exactly. Which allows him to reroll a skull. I thought Beast would survive, but he didn't. Bullseye, like I said, took the left, and then I think I managed to deception then Bullseye towards me, which allowed me to then Asteroid M Magneto up to put some hurt out on Bullseye. But what did I do instead of? I should have been able to take out Bullseye, shouldn't I? Because my first attack really pushed him away, didn't I? And then not only did I push him away, but then he did parting shot and ran away. So
so it just all
I helped him run away.
he just rubbing salt into the wounds.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Cable's his last activation, and he like body slides up. Daisy's Mystique gets within like range 3, so he's got his reroll.
Okay.
And
And
I
you're
don't
not
have
counting blanks. Yeah.
exactly. And Daisy's hair out, and I think I'm rattled at this stage.
So end of round 1, what's the score?
God, I can't remember. He's got the 1-2. He's got his back for 3. Bullseye still got 1 for 4, and I think maybe we're contesting that side one, but I've only got my back point and maybe 1 extract, so maybe it's like 4-2 or something.
But you've got 2 dazed characters.
But I've got 2 dazed characters, yes, and
Ouch.
my characters are all over the place as well. But yeah, round 2, Cable finishes off Mystique, takes her off the board. Lizard, I think, manages to daze Bullseye.
Good.
This is another mistake because he's just dazed the character to give me priority.
Mhm.
He's just taken priority off me. And I go and daze Bullseye to give him priority back.
Yeah.
For a 2-threat character. Brilliant. But yeah, X-23 comes into the mix now, and I think she fails to tase Toad, who is sort of slowly slippering away back from that middle point that he was in.
Mhm.
Yeah, she struggles. Beast does his best to run away from Logan, and then actually runs away, comes over to X-23, and I think does a fair bit of damage, but Logan chases and kills Beast. So round 2, the 2 characters that got dazed are now off the table.
Yeah.
Magneto's stuck in no man's land in the middle. He throws like a size 4 into Logan, which burns exceptional healing. Great. But then I failed to do any damage with my attack, because what have I done again? I've attacked him, pushed him into a building, thinking great, because I don't want to push him out of range.
Yeah.
Attacked him again, and both my attacks did barely anything.
Yeah.
Even and I imagine with rerolls, I probably could have done some serious hurt to him. I just feel so dumb for doing that. Yeah, it's totally dumb. And as you can sort of see from this point, the game just sort of spirals.
Yeah, you've got 3 characters, he's got 5, and you've only dazed Bullseye. That's tough.
Yeah, and it wasn't long. I think in round 3, Bullseye, wakes up and dazes Toad, which then takes his extract, which he's been clinging onto for dear life. And eventually Toad got taken off the board, I think that was then the following round.
Mm-hmm.
I start getting aggressive with Lizards. I'm literally throwing everything I can at this. And he goes to the back point to start messing around with Deadpool. And I think he does all right, but Cable's now got no target, so he just goes back and finishes Lizard off.
Yeah, sure.
So, because to cut a long story short, I think Magneto's left by himself, and I lose the game 18-7 because literally Joe has every point. And it was a quick game. I reckon it was about as fast as I've talked about it. I think I've gone on about it for about 10 minutes now, 15 minutes. I can't think the game was much longer than that.
Yeah.
I was just making mistake after mistake after mistake. And we had a good laugh afterwards, and we was chatting about X-Men and stuff. But yeah, just like to apologise to Joe for not giving him the game that he deserved in the final round.
It sounds like this case where you've made this mistake, turn 0, you've got Brotherhood in your roster, and you want to play them, and it's game 4 of your day, your final game of the day, and you're like, I'll just bring my other affiliation. Whereas actually the decision should have been, let's stick with what we know, stick with Hellfire Club.
Yep.
And then you were rattled.
Absolutely.
I don't mind being wrong, as long as I can correct my mistakes.
You finished the day 2-2.
Yep.
So you did the same as me last week.
Yeah.
Or at Brighton. So actually in the train wars, Cable's Conquests has come nicely mid-table, which is not a bad start for the podcast.
Exactly. Did you finish like out of 24, like 11th or something? I think which is like bang in the middle. I think out of 18, I think I've literally come 9th. So yeah,
nice.
Absolutely. Excellent. Bang in the middle. We are. We're not embarrassing ourselves. Well, not in every game.
No. We're bang average.
Yeah.
That's what we do here on Cable's Conquest. We're bang average.
Yeah.
So let's just dig in a little to your roster. So you had Hellfire Club, and you talked a little bit about the Magneto splash. And I think actually when we talked about it in the intro, in the roster building section, You had this game plan for Magneto. Your experience today with Magneto wasn't so good.
No, I didn't listen to my own game plan, did I?
Exactly. What do you think? So do you think you stick with Magneto, or do you bring in your Hulk?
So I don't think Magneto is a bad shout, because when I want to go brawly, like having a 4-threat tax of Emma is quite tough. And obviously I don't want to be playing an affiliated, because that's wrong on so many levels. So I don't think Magneto is a mistake. What is a mistake is thinking that I'm going to be playing him at all. He's there as like an insurance policy when the wrong crisis turns up. And actually, throughout all 4 games, I had the right crises. If anything, he probably would have been best on the Montesi formula. But even though, because that was still a Superpower Scoundrels, he's still not the right choice either.
Yeah.
So I think it's only when I lose priority and they go with it's if I get one of my 4 secures and they get something like Researcher, or I lose priority and they go with their secures and we get Gamma or something, and then on my extracts we get Skrulls, for instance.
Yeah.
So because with Skrulls on Gamma, that's still going to be down the middle. So I think there are very rare occasions, and even actually on Gamma with Skrulls, I could choose 20 threat. So maybe 20 threat with Magneto could be really good because it'd be brawly and I'd have lots of toys. But ultimately, there are very, very few occasions where I should be bringing Magneto, I think, in this roster.
Yeah. And maybe you could consider it as something for your opponent to think about, like turn 0 or turn -1 mind games, because they don't know whether you're going to take Emma or Magneto.
Exactly. And because they can see my cards, they can see I've got 2, well, 1 and a bit affiliated Brotherhood cards plus Deception. They might be thinking, maybe this person plays Brotherhood more often and, only has, because Emma is a affiliated Brotherhood character, and maybe they just play Hellfire Club, occasionally when the crisis suits. But unfortunately, I think my crises are dead giveaways that I'm probably going to be playing Hellfire Club.
So aside from the Brotherhood's pivot, were there any characters that you would want to replace? Did you play all your characters?
I did. I played every single character.
Good.
And you know what? Under Hellfire Club, I thought every single character I brought absolutely worked, and I really, really enjoyed them. They really worked to the game plan. The biggest surprise to me was how much I enjoyed playing with Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, that's really good.
He's not the most mobile character. You need to be prepared. You need to be his placement, I think, is really important, because once he's moved there in turn 1, he often stays there, I think. But given that he's got a range 4 and a range 3 builder, that's probably fine. You're very rarely doing his spender, which is an area attack with a size based on the number of extraction tokens. Those extraction tokens are great, but you don't want to be using them on that spender. You want to be using them to keep him alive, to get rid of conditions, and to dish out roots and just be annoying. But I'm really keen to try and maybe work Mr. Sinister into other rosters. I even play him a bit more where I have him as part of my core. Maybe swap Iron Man for Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
In my core going forward for Hellfire Club.
Well, it sounds like he did work as well. 1-on-1 with Mr. Sinister, and your one loss in that sounded very close. So
yeah.
That's good. Well, interesting. So, and do you think you'll keep playing Hellfire Club, or do you think you'll move away now, give them a break?
I think I've got a few more games. However, I think one thing I really want to try and do is get more reps in with Magneto and with Brotherhood.
Right. Yeah.
So I think at the next event you might see Emma take a step back and me playing exclusively Brotherhood of Mutants.
Nice. And I guess that will then help when you do come back to Hellfire Club with this pivot.
Literally, that's what it was. I had a very seasoned Brotherhood player on the table next to me, Ron, and he was like, ultimately, you need more reps with Magneto. I was like, never has something more true been said.
Well, excellent. And do you have anything to say? Sounds like a great day. Sounds like a good classic Crisis at the Cafe. One thing I did want to ask is, who won between Brighton and London?
So Ron did, actually. So he won down in Brighton, didn't he? I think he went 4-0. He beat Norbert in the final round. And I think going into this event, it was either Ron or Norbert who attended both and did pretty well in both. So it was between them. Ron actually lost in round 3 to David Miller, who beat me. And David Miller went on to win the event.
Ah, well done him.
So yeah, David Miller, super nice guy. I'm really pleased for his win. It seemed fully deserved. He played really well against me. I'm sure he could say the same against his other opponents. But Ron, I think, took the crown for the Train Wars. I think he ended up finishing second or third. He won his final round and went 3-1. So yeah, congratulations to David and Ron there.
Yeah, I mean, 7-1 across 2 weekends from Ron. That's pretty good going from him. So if he's out there listening, well done.
Well done, Ron.
Excellent. So I guess to round out the show, where can people find you, Curtis?
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Simple Edge Highlights, but I'm also in sort of the London Discord. I'm just Curtis. That's where you can find me and my hobby.
Excellent. And for me, for my part, I'm on Instagram as Smeagol's Corner from Lord of the Rings, if you hadn't guessed. And on Discord, I'm Archie_RC. But anyway, thanks for coming on, Curtis. I've really enjoyed listening to your experiences. And to everyone out there, until next time, keep up the conquest.
The name's Cable. Remember it.